The next section, Stage 2, Creating Website Graphics, that first part, Examine an HTML page, you guys can do that on your own. I'm not going to work through that here. You do need to understand some of HTML, especially with the cascading style sheets, which are basically the thing that says this is what an item should look like. But I'm not going to spend time with this. We're on a time crunch. And if you are indeed interested in building web pages, I suggest you take some of the classes in building that. And of course, that first sentence pretty much sums it up. It is common practice to create the look and feel of a website Illustrator and then hand off the pieces for a programmer to assemble in a web design application. So that pretty much says it all. So the thing that we're going to look at next is starting on page 421, examining the pixel grid. And back in the site design file, you need to zoom in to that first letter so that you can see the S and the T really close. And we need to be at least 600%. My screen is at 1600%. And then go into View and choose Pixel Preview. And there is where you can see this at the pixel level, and you can see how you do not have clean lines. You have things that are definitely white, definitely black, and then in shades of gray. Now this grid is at 72 ppi resolution, which is screen resolution. So every square that you see is 1/72 of an inch. Everything is bitmapped. You're using a very close magnification, and so you're going to see how the edges of the shapes are defined by the position of the pixels on the grid. Pick up your selection tool, go to Select and select All. And in the application menu bar thing, you're going to find Align Selected Art to Pixel Grid, which is going to be over here. There it is, Align Selected Art to Pixel Grid up in the upper right hand corner. And when you do that, you can see some of that has definitely cleaned up. Then go to View, Fit Artboard in Window, and you can turn off the pixel preview. There you go. Deselect everything and save this. We're on page 422, define object names. When you export a cascading style sheet out of Illustrator, the object names in the Layers panel determine the resulting selector and the file names. The naming is important because that's what's going to match the names in the HTML file and the cascading style sheet. The cascading style sheet is going to tell the HTML file what those items are supposed to look like. So as we do the following, you have to be sure that the exact names are used. If you do a different object name and a different file name, and that means no misspellings or no odd capitalization or no weird spacing, that final CSS code is not going to function the way it's supposed to. So we need to look at all of the layers. Let me find my layers. There they are. Expand everything out. Unlock the header if it's still locked, and select the red filled rectangle at the top of the page. That's part of the header. Now it comes up with the rectangle selected there in your layers panel, and we're going to go up to Window, and we're going to open up the CSS properties box so you can look at what that says. Now in here it says there is no cascading style sheet code generated to create CSS for unnamed objects. Either name the object in the Layers panel or enable Generate CSS for Unnamed Objects option in the Export Options dialog box. So what we are going to do now is double click and select the rectangle name. We need to type in NAV slash BKG and hit enter to name that. Now in the properties box you're going to see that that name means it's the background, and it defines what the color is in hexadecimal, and it gives the background color in also in RGB and alpha. So now click to select the guitar illustration. Okay, and there's a group, remember, for the guitar. You're going to have to double click that group name and type in header slash BKG and rename it. It's going to come out background image, URL to create images referenced in CSS, use export selected CSS. So we get a whole nother dialog box. We're defining the class name and the name of the raster image that's going to be generated from the artwork. So we've defined with that header BKG class, there's two properties, the background image and there's no repeat. Okay, so in there the no repeat means it's only going to happen once. And there's a note, that note in there about the creating image, that basically says that you have to export that as well as the CSS file, and we'll do that towards the end. Now we need to pick up the white filled path object behind the secondary logo artwork. So that should be this, and that should come up as a path right there. We need to rename that main hyphen text. Yes. Hit enter, and that comes up and tells us the hexadecimal of F is white. It also gives us the RGBA of white. Then there's that red shape at the bottom, and again you're just going to see no cascading style sheet code was generated. We're going to find that here and rename the path for that footer background hyphen BKG, and now it's going to tell us what's in the style sheet for that. The logo type in the header, we need to pick that up. That's this, and there should be a group for that. So double click that, and that group is Studio, STUDIO 81 dash, so hyphen logo. And if you named that correctly, it will come up and tell you what that is. It also tells you that's something that's also going to have to be exported out. We're going to repeat that again for the item that says home feature. Let me find that. The artwork, oh, this down here. Okay, that one needs to be renamed. So let's find that group. That's right here. Yep, that's it. So that needs to be named home hyphen FEATURE. I must have spelled something wrong. Or let me see my CSS properties. Okay, I had to undo and redo it, and there comes up my home feature. That also references having to create an image referenced for export selected. So at this point, again, save this. On page 427, create a gradient page background. So the HTML body element, which is in the body tags, defines everything that's visible. And you might think of the body element, it's the overall background of the page. So we're going to change the solid gray background that we have right now, which is here, to a gradient, and define the object name so that the CSS selector defines the proper appearance. So we're going to select that gray background, and using the gradient panel, so bring up your gradient panel, apply the default black to white, but give it a minus 90 degree angle, and using your swatches panel, drag the yellow swatch from the site colors onto the left stop. So you're going to put that where the white was, and take the red swatch and put that at the 50%. So right about there. We'll leave the black on the end where it was. And in the layers panel, you're going to rename that selected object, which was a path, body. And now you'll see in your properties the body, how all of this comes up in there. So save again.